tone deaf, I think, is the best way to put it. I think fans were insulted by it, just kind of confirming a suspicion that the way they look at it is not the way that they looked at it 20 years ago when they were trying to break the curse. Now it's random. It's a crapshoot. We'll see what happens.
We are joined by Chris Cotillo, who covers the Red Sox Fenway Rundown podcast, adjunct professor at BC. Tar Heel forever, it says in your bio. I'm not like a college sports person, so that means nothing to me. I'm going to steal my first question from an Athletic article that I was looking at about the Red Sox, which is just, is this team overperforming or underperforming?
Yeah, that's the big question. And Sam Kennedy answered it, and he didn't do a particularly great job of answering it on the radio a couple weeks ago. But I think they are overperforming just if you look at the injuries they have. Obviously, Trevor Story the first week, Lucas Giolito before that. The guys that have been even on the field, Tyler O'Neill, Rafael Devers have been banged up. Garrett Whitlock's now out for the year. Tristan Casas is out for a few months. I mean, the fact that they're 500 with guys like David Hamilton and Dom Smith and, Jamie Westbrook and guys that I hadn't even heard of heading into the year covering this team, being on the field every day, I think is a credit to Alex Cora. So, are they a World Series contender? I don't think so, but they do deserve some credit for putting together what they have, cobbling together a pitching staff, cobbling together a lineup every day with, a lot of guys that either don't have major league experience, aren't even top prospects. They found a way to do it. So good for them.
All right. You brought him up. You brought up Dom Smith. I got to ask, you saw the thing that happened the other night.
Yep.
How does that happen where Dom Smith's like, I didn't think it was that play. And Alex Cora's like, no, you should have made that. Was there discussions after that? And has that become anything at all? Because we all know the Boston media can blow stuff up, but has that become anything other than just us talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting. I was there in the scrum. Cora said that's a play Dom has to make. He actually said if you ask Dom, he'll just say he dropped it, and Dom said, actually, it's not a routine play. I didn't want to get my arm ripped off. I kind of see both sides. Obviously, you're trying to avoid injury, but that play in the game, might have cost them the game. They did lose 4-1. They didn't have the offense going against Wheeler. Not many people do. It wasn't, the perfect response. Probably easier to just say, I should have made the play and I didn't, which he originally did, but there was a follow-up and he didn't seem to like the follow-up. It's obviously, I think, a tough situation to be in. The clock's ticking for Dom Smith because Tristan Casas is on his way back. So he might be kind of looking at that and thinking the days are numbered. But he actually has been pretty good, for the last 10 days or so, hitting about 300, making a lot of picks at first base. There's been a few missed catch errors that have kind of, put a cloud over all of that. But I mean, Cora said it first. Dom kind of said something different. I don't think it was a huge deal. The Boston media is a little more focused on the Celtics and John Henry giving the middle finger to his fans right now. So the Dom Smith thing kind of basically, was a, short news cycle, but not a huge deal.
Not a huge deal, but I want to hear what you have to say about the middle finger that John Henry gave to maybe one of the best fan bases, in my opinion, in all of sports. And listen, Boston fans have a lot to cheer about. The Celtics, the Patriots for a lot of years there. But to me, they're all just always wearing their Red Sox uniforms underneath their Celtics jerseys, their Bruins jerseys. And John Henry was just like, whatever, piss off.
Yeah, that was, we've been kind of pounding the drum for him to speak to us in the media for a long time because the last time he did it was February 2020, the day after they traded Mookie. And this was, he's done a couple email interviews here and there where he can craft his words theoretically carefully. He did that with the Financial Times over the weekend, an interview that was done a long time ago. And, there's a few different things. The main one being, at the end of the day, fans shouldn't expect championships every year. At the end of the day, in baseball, it's a 1 in 30 chance. He said 1 in 20, which he was referring to the Premier League, 1 in 30 referring to baseball. And, that suggests randomness, and that suggests, basically that you what's the point of playing the games? You have a 1 in 30 chance. And I asked Liam Hendriks and Kenley Jansen about that in the clubhouse on Tuesday when they got back home. And Liam Hendriks basically said that, if that's the case, what's the point of even effing playing? Yeah, the better accent than I can provide here on the show. I'm not going to try to do it. But, these are kind of the clubhouse looking at that and saying, really? They think that's a 1 in 30 chance. And I think it kind of informs how he thinks of things. You think of the Yankees, they don't think of things that way. There kind of is a cause and effect to this. If you pour more money into your team, if you add good players, if you have a roster like the Phillies who they're playing now, the Yankees who they're playing tomorrow, your chances go up from 1 in 30. And right now, their chances are way worse than 1 in 30 because, the talent is not there. The injuries have made it worse. So, tone deaf, I think, is the best way to put it. I think fans were insulted by it. That's kind of been, a long string of this where, the ownership has kind of, starting with Full Throttle, which I know you guys have talked about a lot, including, last time I was on. But this was, I think, just kind of confirming a suspicion that the way they look at it is not the way that they looked at it 20 years ago when they were trying to break the curse or trying to build on the momentum of that. And they won 4 World Series in 15 years. Now it's, it's random. It's a crapshoot. We'll see what happens. And, fans were insulted by it. I'm sure the players were too. You guys were players, and I don't think you'd like an owner saying that about the team you're playing for, which is obvious.
We can talk about this as players all we want because we were players, but how is there any backlash from the fans in the sense of like, well, we're going to do this? Because ownership can say, hey, you know what? We are right up. We're spending right up to that luxury tax threshold. But
right.
Is there any backlash that you think or you're hearing fans are like not banding together because it's not a band together, don't come out and watch your Sox because it's going to be summer. Everybody wants to go to the Hamptons or see the Sox play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier said than done. They're going to sell tickets, and you're going to see, Fenway Park full. The last 2 nights, they've, been pretty close to a sellout. 35,000. A lot of that is Phillies fans. We've seen a lot of visiting fans come throughout the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons. The Cubs for a weekend series. Now that you have these, big National League teams coming in, it's kind of a pilgrimage because they haven't played there that often. We saw that the Brewers and the Cardinals in the last couple summers, felt like 40-60 or 50-50. Dodgers fans, Mets fans last year, Blue Jays fans last year for an important series. Like right now, they're filling Fenway Park. And so, the bottom line's probably not changing. I do think the TV numbers are down. At the end of the day, it's kind of hard, I think, for John Henry to have a pulse on the backlash because he is, he has his attention going in so many different directions. The PGA Tour is taking a lot of his focus in that deal right now. The Penguins, Liverpool, NASCAR, all that stuff, rightly so. I think fans feel like, the Red Sox were his number one priority before. Now they're not. I've always said, as a, big company like Fenway Sports Group is, you should be able to go buy what you want, make money, allocate it however you want. And that, John Henry had already kind of paid his bills with Boston fans with the 4 World Series. But now this has gone on too long. And when you're going out and you're insulting the fan base and when you're telling people you have unrealistic expectations to contend every year, I think it's just gone too far. And I think a lot of fans feel that way too, and the way he has basically thrown away the goodwill that he built up over those 4 championships and being the savior that came in and broke the curse and kind of created a mini dynasty over the course of 15 years and a team that always competed. It's crazy to see, the way fans feel about him now. And I'm not talking about like young, spoiled fans who are like my age and used to Boston winning all the time. We're getting emails from people in their 70s, people in their 80s say, I used to love Henry because of what he did, but he's the worst owner in Boston sports history. And, people feel personally insulted by it. I know Bostonians are reactive and all that, but it's the truth of what people are saying. And it's just kind of been this, constant downfall for him based on the way they've acted and when he's spoken very rarely the things he said.
FT is headed to the MLB All-Star Game this year, and there's only one way you should be finding tickets for any ball game. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all of your baseball ticket needs.
I'm super pumped to hit the Futures game this year. That new skills competition looks electric.
I agree, Kratz. It's like the Olympics for baseball. Cannot wait to see that. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. Baseball season's in full swing, and you don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game and, of course, concerts, festivals, and more.
Every ticket's backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps.
And Kratz, FT came through for the people. Use our code FOUL for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code FOUL. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, please.
And I think part of what made those comments, the sort of 1 in 30 comments, really insulting is that it's like, sure, 1 in 30 teams wins the World Series every year,
Right.
But fans are smart enough to know that, like, whether or not you're one of the top 10 going into the season, one of the top 10 at the midpoint in the season, and that those are different odds. That's 1 in 3. But I'm curious, you talk about Henry having these other priorities, get the other parts of his portfolio at the Fenway Sports Group. Other than just payroll, are there ways that the lack of prioritization of the Red Sox is manifesting in the way it feels to be around that team or to be a fan of the team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of look at a lot of what it is as, not a first-class product, especially on the field. You just look at star power. I was in New York for the weekend for Yankees Dodgers, and I know that that's probably recency bias and right in your face with all the different stars on that team, including one of Mookie Betts who was here. But like you walk into a clubhouse, and you're kind of like, oh, there's Ohtani, there's Yamamoto, there's Mookie, there's Freeman, the Yankee side, Judge, Stanton, whoever it might be. On the Red Sox side, Devers is there and he's making $300 million. But outside of that, there's good players, but they're not stars. Maybe some of them will grow into that. I think they were looking to Trevor Story to kind of assume part of that. He's been, hurt and underperformed since he's been in Boston. Giolito is kind of a name. He got hurt again. So they just don't have the star power, the cachet. And there's a lot of things about how they do things that really anger fans just kind of on a daily basis. The Nesson product, there's a streaming app, Nesson 360, that fans are up in arms about how badly it works. It just buffers constantly. They miss plays. And it just kind of feels like, from a fan's perspective, especially a fan that's paying so much for tickets, so much for concessions, parking, that app is $30 a month, that Red Sox ownership is kind of ignoring, the pleas. And when you are a Red Sox fan and you're not a Penguins, Liverpool, racing fan, and that's what you want to focus on, you're going to want, me. But it's just, I think, over time manifested itself. And another point is that, Sean McAdam and I reported back when it happened that they brought Theo Epstein in as a quiet acknowledgement that they had let the Red Sox slide and that the thing had grown too big to manage on the FSG level. There was too much going on. Sean reported the other day, John Henry is more obsessed with this PGA Tour investment and more locked in on it than people who know him have seen him in a long time, because it's just a huge thing. And I don't, despite the background, I don't know all the ins and outs of that golf wise, but I know it's petty in some ways for Red Sox fans to, feel slighted and wish that the attention was all on them all the time. But, this is a team that has finished in last place 3 of the last 4 years. They cut payroll really for no reason heading into the offseason, and they didn't play at the top end of the free agent market. They've changed GMs 4 times. And, you see that reflected really in kind of the apathy, especially in a town where, last night the Red Sox had perhaps their best win of the year, right? They come back 8 unanswered against the Phillies. Well, the Celtics were playing in Game 3 of the finals. Tom Brady's his number was getting retired at Gillette. We were joking with the people who write for papers like the Red Sox would, on the front page of the sports page might be, the Red Sox won too. That's just the reality of it. This isn't the crotchety, miserable New England sports writer and native thing. It's just the way it is. And, winning cures all, but also, just showing the fans, some that they care would go a long way. And they just keep going backwards, those comments being the latest instance of it.
Okay, so last one for me. Is it time? Is it time for Fenway? I know they're called Fenway Sports Group, to maybe sell the Red Sox and bring in somebody that is more Red Sox central focus than what John Henry's group is. I mean, I know they did the World Series, but is it time for them to move on?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I mean, they're not going to. So it doesn't even really kind of, matter if we kind of talk about it. They're not going to. They don't, as John Henry said in that interview the other day, we don't sell assets. And they're not looking to do that. I do think, the interesting thing is they did make Sam Kennedy the president of FSG and all the properties on top of his responsibilities of being the president of the Red Sox, where people were worried how hands-on he was with the organization. Now you give him that title and he has more of an active hand in all of the other things. It's tricky. I think in a perfect world, they'd like Theo to run the entire show potentially at some point. Maybe as the president of the Red Sox with the Red Sox focus, but for a couple reasons, now is not the time. Number one, he doesn't want to do that on a full-time basis. He's kind of lived the baseball life and, is enjoying dipping in the other sports that he is. And part two, that's a very tough ask for Craig Breslow to come in and then have, a guy 4 months later who's not only his mentor, but like the greatest executive in the history of baseball overshadowing him, and like as much as Theo, even in this role, is going to tell Breslow, hey, you have autonomy, you can do whatever you want. At the end of the day, you're going to kind of default to the guy who's won and done it and been as good as Theo has in his career. So they're in a tricky spot right now. They say no changes are coming. Sam will continue being, the president of the Red Sox and running the show. FSG is not going to sell. At the end of the day, the fan backlash can be whatever it is. The record can be whatever it is. They don't have to make a change. They can keep cycling GMs and CBOs and managers and whatever they want to do because, that's what they've done now for a few years. Why not keep it up?
Alex,
we're going to
Oh,
you got
are we going to let him go?
Go for it.
I just had a quick Alex Cora.
Yeah.
Alex Cora.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no, he goes to the American League East as a manager next year?
That's a great question. I have thought for a long time that he is eyeing the Dodgers and the Yankees. I know those are two of the best managers in the game, but if they get bounced in the division series or an early playoff exit, like at a certain point, the Dodgers are going to say that's enough. And the Yankees are potentially going to say that's enough. And that's two clubhouses that seem to be, gelling really well right now, especially in New York. The Phillies are another interesting one to watch just because he's so incredibly close with Dave Dombrowski still. I know Thompson's done an excellent job, has probably, no desire to go anywhere, and they probably don't want to fire him. But, I don't think Alex Cora is going to be back here. I think everything he said has pointed to that. And it'll be interesting to see. I think he wants a big market challenge, and he's not going to let, rivalry get in the way if the Yankees are going to offer and move on from Boone. That would be great theater, a great drama to cover from my perspective. But I think he's, open to really anything, and I think he's going to get paid. And I also think that his paycheck is going up by the day because he's managing a team with the guys we talked about, a very banged up team, to be 500, and getting the most out of guys who, a lot of guys have not been significant players in the major leagues before. So I think he's earning himself some money. Of course, if they crash and burn here, that might, turn around. But Craig Counsell's the greatest thing that ever happened to Alex Cora, and I think we're going to see it play out that way this fall.
All right. Well, you turned it around at the end. I was gonna say we've been so doom and gloom. I was gonna try to tee you up on Tanner Houck since he is going tonight when the Red Sox go for their first series win against a team above 500 this year against the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us, on your way out, Chris, just give us a little Tanner Houck optimism, excitement, because there's been a lot of things are bad in Boston, but things are not all bad in Boston.
No, they're 500. We're going to keep it on balance. Tanner Houck's been the best thing that's happened to them this year and the best development that they've had. I mean, he has been excellent. He has been, I think they were looking for one of their young homegrown starters to take a major step forward. He has. Crawford maybe a little bit, Bayo maybe a step back. But Houck, he's a first-round pick, a guy they think could be a horse. And in the past, he's either been inconsistent, bounced back and forth from the bullpen, or hurt. And last year we saw him get hit in the face with a comebacker. This year he's been their ace, and I think he'll be in the All-Star game in a month. He's been excellent, and that's the type of guy that they have not developed legitimately since John Lester or Clay Buchholz, a homegrown guy they drafted and developed or signed and developed. And, if you have, a rotation headlined by him and maybe add some pieces, if they open the wallet this offseason, the rotation could look pretty good going forward. So, again, the brightest spot of all for them so far.
All right. I see you have your tired Carolina jersey. The SEC is going to dominate the ACC in Omaha. I'm just saying. But do you have a Houckamania t-shirt? Because Papelbon's on here, and he'd love to sell you one.
No, I think he's the only person with one, actually. That really hasn't taken off in Boston either. And I will say, do not sleep on Vance Honeycutt, who has a flair for the dramatic, and I hope that continues in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We will.
It just means more, though, in the SEC, Chris. I'm just saying.
That's not true.
He said
the commercials say it is. The commercials say it is.
ACC's got Stanford and Cal now. Totally different game.
Ooh.
I'm going to let you guys take this offline.
I'll take Texas and Oklahoma over Stanford and Cal. Sorry.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.